NASCAR has a ton of crazy facts about it, some of which go around all the time and everyone knows about them, but some of them just shouldn't be true. And today we're going to look at a bunch of these. Now, I put a community post up a couple days ago asking what ones you knew. I love doing these videos where we work together on them, and then I went and verified some. We may have to make more than one video on this, so if this does well, we will. If you don't see yours in this video, that's probably why, or it just wasn't true. But let's go right on into it. First off, Dick Hutcherson. Do you know who that is? Well, this one here from Brewed Pickle Diecast says that Dick Hutcherson won 14 races and only 103 starts with 64 top fives. He has a NASCAR record for the best top 5 percentage and best average start. He retired to become a crew chief in his first 2 seasons. He won the NASCAR championship with David Pearson. He then retired from crew chiefing to run Holman Moody for 2 years until 1971 when the team got 12 wins, when he retired to build racing chassis. Oh, and he also finished 3rd overall at Le Mans. Despite all this, though, this driver is unknown and will never sniff the Hall of Fame. First off, I'm going to say I saw the post on NASCAR Reddit as well. As much as many on there don't think, I do actually lurk. And on top of that, you're right. There needs to be a true spotlight on a lot of these pioneer drivers, people, whoever, because a name like this should be remembered more, and unfortunately, probably will never be. A more well-known fact is that J.D. McDuffy, despite having 12 top 5s and 106 top 10s in 653 starts, never finished on the lead lap. He is very unappreciated as a driver. Brock Beard has made a good amount of content in book form and also in video form about him. I would definitely check that out. But McDuffy also raced in an entirely different era altogether, which is why we see such a wild and crazy stat line. Third up is that Dale Jr. drove the 88 from 2008 to 2017 longer than he drove the 8 from 1999 to 2007. What's crazy is the back and forth in stat lines for Dale Jr. in these eras as well. In the 88, he had 9 wins compared to 17 in the 8. But in 2013 and 15, he also got a career top number of top 10s with 22 in the 88. From 2011 to 2015, he had a 12.3 average finish, his best average finish in a 5-year span, compared to 2000 to 2004, where he had 15 wins, but also averaged a 15.5 finish. And at DEI, he averaged a 16th overall finish compared to 15th at Hendrick Motorsports. In 291 starts at DEI, the driver of the 8 had 17 wins, 76 top 5s, 121 top 10s, over 5,000 laps led, and 41 DNFs. In about 51 more races at Hendrick, he had 8 less wins, 3 less top 5s, 18 more top 10s, about half the laps led, and 13 less DNFs. Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't reach the peaks at Hendrick Motorsports that he did at DEI, but he rarely, other than 2009, reached the valleys that he hit at DEI. I would say the driver of the 8 at that time was very hit or miss, where I think at Hendrick he was consistently a top 10 to top 5 guy other than maybe 2 or 3 years here or there. Next is that in his 3 championship winning years, Matt Crafton has a combined 3 wins, going winless in 2019, which is in the playoff era. So I was at that 2019 race when he won the championship, and it's really funny to me as NASCAR build the playoffs and chase era playoffs as basically a winning means more mentality. And it's really interesting looking at the breakdown of this. 1 win in 2013, but he led all but 3 weeks of the season, consistently dominant. And in 2014, he had 2 wins, a lot better, and he beat the likes of Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace. And in 2019, while being winless, he was able to beat, by 2 positions, Ross Chastain at Homestead to win the title. A fun one that's really surfaced in the last couple of years is at the Tulsa Fairgrounds Speedway. It was so dusty in this one race that Lee Petty got out of his car during the middle of the race, walked across the track in basically zero visibility to call the caution himself. And this ended up ending the race overall. A wild one here. The time span of Jeff Gordon's first and last win and Kevin Harvick's first and last win span the exact same amount of days, 7,826. I checked this multiple times, and it is true. Kevin Harvick's first win was on March 11, 2001, and his last win was August 14, 2022. Interestingly enough, Kevin Harvick would beat Jeff Gordon in a photo finish at the line. Jeff Gordon's first win, ironically enough, was May 29th, 1994, and his last win was on my 18th birthday on November 1st, 2015, and it was amazing seeing that in person. Seventh up is that in the 2007 Daytona July race on 7/7/07, the 07 of Clint Bowyer finished 7th. There's not much more I can add to this, it's just plain cool. Since 2023, Shane Van Gisbergen has as many Cup wins as Chase Elliott. To be fair, Elliott has not been bad whatsoever in this time. He did get hurt, but he has been consistent. And it's actually since 2022 at Talladega. Elliott has 1 win in 56 starts. SVG has 6 starts with 1 win. But let's be honest, SVG also picks and chooses which races are the best fit for him to more than likely get a win in. Ninth up, we'll stick with the Elliotts. From yours truly, Chris, saying Bill and Chase Elliott's first wins were at a road course, which is true. And on top of that, both had 8 second-place finishes in their career in Cup before their first win as well. Bill Elliott actually won this race, and it was the last race he had before switching to having Coors as his sponsor. Next up is the fact that there was a time when the Rainbow Warriors was mostly comprised of straight dudes. Again, nothing to add here, I just find it funny. Let's stick with Super G. Jeff Gordon only winning a single title in the 2000s after dominating the late 90s. And this is true, and I think the big change here is Ray Evernham and the playoff formats. In the era with Ray Evernham, in 223 starts, Gordon had 49 wins. In the 582 after, he had 44. Now, he, of course, in the era after, which was much longer, had more top 5s, more top 10s, but he only led 4,000 more laps in the 582 starts after his first 223, and he had an average finish about a spot and a half lower. It's also interesting that when the year Jimmy came in, Jeff's championship stopped, though if you ask an old Gordon fan, he has 7. 12th up, Austin Cindric winning his first race on Roger Penske's birthday. Chase Elliott also won Pocono in 2022 by leading 0 laps. Yes, Roger's birthday is February 20th, which meant that at some point, Penske would get a Daytona 500 on that date. It's pretty interesting that it's Austin Cindric's first. And yes, Chase Elliott won a race in 2022 at Pocono with 0 laps led because first and second, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch were DQ'd, moving the third place finisher up to first. On Lucky 13, you don't need a driver's license to be in the Cup Series. NASCAR actually has its own license that you can apply for online. Some other crazy ones are that Ryan Newman had a better average finish in 2014 than Kevin Harvick. Denny Hamlin had a better average finish than Kyle Larson in 2021. Austin Dillon had 0 DNFs in his rookie year. And the only season Denny Hamlin competed in full-time and didn't win a race is 2018. Now, let's go through these really quick. Ryan Newman had a 12.7 average finish in 2014 compared to Kevin Harvick's 12.9. Harvick had higher highs and lower lows, whereas Newman was consistently around 8th all year. Denny Hamlin's average finish in 21 was 8.4 to compare to Kyle Larson's 9.1. Larson won 10 races, so that pretty much washed out any bad that season. It's true, Austin Dillon did have 0 DNFs in 2014, and the last year before Chris Gabehart, 2018, was Denny Hamlin's last win this season and only one full-time. He has won 23 races in the 5.5 seasons since. Number 15 here is that all 3 of Terry and Bobby Labonte's championships came in leap years and years with the Olympic Games. In 1984 and 1996, Terry Labonte won, and in 2000, Bobby Labonte won. Interestingly enough, there is a split between the two. Terry's came in years the Olympics were in America, and re-election years, with Reagan and Clinton winning re-election in 1984 and 1996. Whereas Bobby Labonte won in a year that the Olympics were held in Sydney, Australia. And that was also the same year that George W. Bush won election. So, yeah, It's pretty interesting looking at the similarities and differences here. Next up is an old school one. In 1963, Richard Petty won 14 races and had a 7.5 average finish in 54 starts, but lost the championship by over 2,000 points to Joe Weatherly, who only won 3 races and had a 9.1 average finish in 53 starts. So, the breakdown here. Weatherly ran for 9 teams that year, by the way, including Bud Moore and even once for Petty Enterprises. Petty ran races in the 41, 42, and 43 that season instead of just the 43. But the reason this happened was that the point system at the time was based on prize money, and, well, Petty won the lower money races with less cars in them at smaller facilities, whereas Weatherly won the Southern 500, which awarded over $40,000 at the time, which today equates to over $400,000. Whereas Petty wins averaged basically $6,250, which would be $64,000 in today's money. Petty's wins were also in smaller fields, and based on how they crowned champions and points at the time, they really focused on who won the big events rather than who won the most events. Next up is that Martin Shx Jr. has no superspeedway wins in the NASCAR Cup Series, but managed to win 3 straight races at Talladega in the Busch Series. He came close in 2016 at the Daytona 500, but yeah, he won at Talladega's lone Xfinity race at the time in 2004, 2005, and 2006, with Chance 2 and DEI, which were both peak restrictor plate dominant teams at the time. Another interesting one is that Dale Earnhardt and Michael McDowell have the same number of road course wins in Cup. That is true. They also have the same amount of Daytona 500 victories in Cup. Ross Chastain set the stock car lap time record at Martinsville by riding the wall. Yeah, the Hail Melon broke basically every rule possible that it could, except for the fact that there wasn't one at the time, and it's pretty wild to think that it will, for at least a long time, be immortalized in the record books. And let's finish off the fun one. Back in 1956, I believe, Curtis Turner won 2 consecutive races by leading all the laps in both races, and these were Cup. So I will correct you, it was 1950 that this happened, but a long time ago. And it was at Rochester's Monroe County Speedway and the old Charlotte Speedway dirt track. He had 200 laps in each race, won $2,500 or $32,000 in 2024 money. There's no record of the margin of victory at Charlotte because of how spotty it was at the time, but at Rochester, he won by over 3 laps. His 4 wins that year also saw him lead 599 of the combined 700 laps, so he led over 85% of the laps in races he won, and 12% of his Cup laps led in his career came in those 4 races alone compared to his other 180 starts. Really interesting, and again, I just love bragging about how good Curtis Turner was. But with that, I'm going to pass it on to you. Be sure to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And listen, there's plenty more answers that were given on that community post, so we will do probably another video if this does well. And let me know down in the comments below the ones that maybe they didn't list out or you know that I don't know. And maybe we can just make a whole series out of this together. But until next time, have a good one.